Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, December 28th, 2021. Today I'm going to recap yesterday's Monday Night Football game, college bowls, NBA, and college basketball. Look ahead to everything tonight. The NHL returns tonight, so look ahead to tonight's window. News and notes, NFL power rankings today, and my best bet of the day. We'll be quick. We'll recap the NFL game from last night. It was ugly to say the least, as the Dolphins came out on top 20-3 over the New Orleans Saints, as the Dolphins go to 8-7. New Orleans drops to 7-8 as the Saints started Ian Book at quarterback. I mean, the Dolphins, we'll get to them in the power rankings, but yet another lucky break that they get to catch Ian Book rather than Jameis Winston or Trevor Siemian even. That's their fourth quarterback, if you think about it. So, we'll see how it goes for each side. And the Saints aren't really out of it yet. They just have to win their next two with a couple of upsets along the way in the NFC playoff picture. Alrighty, now we'll move on to college football. We will do bowl results and look ahead to a very busy slate of bowl games today. None of them have been postponed yet. So that's really, really good, in my opinion, that we have a slew of bowl games. We had one yesterday, the Quick Lane Bowl. Western Michigan defeated Nevada 52-24. Western Michigan finishes 8-5. Nevada also finishes 8-5. And Western Michigan, it was predictable. I thought that they were going to win the game with Carson Strong not playing for Nevada. All right, now we look ahead to today. First up, 12 o'clock ESPN, Houston-Auburn, the Birmingham Bowl. My projection here is Houston by 12.5, but Auburn's a 1.5 point favorite. Auburn is missing a ton of guys. No Bo Nix. And a lot of their draft guys are out too. But FanDuel has that too in 51.5. So Houston's the easy pick here. I think they're going to win and potentially win by double digits against Auburn. And I think this is an over game as well. Next up, the Liberty Bowl from the Memorial Stadium there in Memphis. You have Mississippi State and skipped one. Air Force Louisville, the First Responder Bowl. 3:15 ESPN. My projection is Air Force by 1, total 55.7. And it's Louisville by a half, total 54.5. So it's essentially a pick 'em in this spot. Very, very close projections. But I'm going to go with the slight edge to the Air Force because Louisville is missing their quarterback and some slight adjustments were made. So slight edge to Air Force, and I also have a slight edge on the over. Now is the Liberty Bowl. That is 6:45 on ESPN. Mississippi State and Texas Tech. My projection is I almost said Liberty. A 2-point edge towards Mississippi State, and my total is 59.25. Meanwhile, it is 9.5 and 58.5. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I love Texas Tech. I think they can win. I'm not calling for the win, but I think they can absolutely do it. So give me Texas Tech plus the 9.5 against Mississippi State. 8 o'clock on Fox, the Holiday Bowl between UCLA and NC State. My projection here is NC State is a 2.5 point favorite, total 58.05. Meanwhile, it is NC State by 2, total of 60. This is a tough one by all accounts because I'm very close, but I'm going to go slight under as my pick here. I also have now a slight edge to NC State. I was hoping NC State would be a dog here so I could bet them to win outright, but they're smart. And then last but not least, 10:15 on ESPN, West Virginia and Minnesota in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. My projection is Minnesota by 7.5. No Letty Brown for West Virginia. Minnesota has everyone, and they're laying only 5. Minnesota, and the total is 45. I'm gonna lay it with the Gophers. Like I said, no Letty Brown. West Virginia's been so up and down all year. I think Neil Brown's a good coach, and I think that eventually his program will get better, but their best player on offense is out. And Minnesota, I know they have a bad reputation because they lost to an FCS school. Or no, I'm sorry, they lost to Bowling Green, which is almost an FCS school. But I really think that they could come out and finish their season strong. So I'm going to lay the points here with Minnesota against the Mountaineers of West Virginia. Now I'm going to recap the NBA games from last night and look ahead to tonight's solid window. Hornets over the Rockets, 123-99. Bulls over the Hawks, 131-18. Timberwolves over the Celtics, 108-103. Jazz over the Spurs, 110-104. So best bet loses by a half point. Grizzlies over the Suns, 114-113 on a game-winning shot by Ja Morant. Mavericks over the Trailblazers, 132-117. And the Nets over the Clippers, 124-108. All right, now we look ahead to the games for tonight. Bucks at the Magic at 7 o'clock. I project the Bucks by 25 in the corner. It's 13.5 and 214.5. I'll lay the points of the Bucks. 7:30 Wizards Heat. My projection is Miami by 2.5, and it's 6.5 and 208.5. I'm taking the Wizards and the points. Miami doesn't have Lowry or Bam, so I think that the Wizards keep this close despite COVID protocol stuff with a couple of their role players. And plus, they might have the best player in the court in this game, Bradley Beal. 76ers Raptors. My projection is Philly by 7 3/4, and it's 6.5 and 211. I will take the under. 8 o'clock Lakers Rockets. My projection is the Lakers by 7, and it's 5 and 227. I'm going to lay the 5 with the Lakers. Sans no AD. It looks like Kevin Porter's back for Houston, so that's good. Knicks Timberwolves. My projection with the Timberwolves COVID stuff going on is Knicks by 9, and it's 5 and 212. I'm going to lay the points with the Knicks in this spot. Cavs Pelicans. My projection is the Pelicans by a half. And New Orleans is a 6-point underdog, total 213. I'm taking the Pelicans plus the 6 and plus 205 on the money line. I think that's a good outright potential pick because the Cavs have a ton of players in COVID protocol. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Colin Sexton hurt out for the year. And even though the Pels don't have Zion, I think that they can win this game. Next up, the Nuggets and the Warriors at 10 o'clock. My projection is Golden State by 10 1/4. And it's 7 and 217.5. I'm going to lay the 7 with Golden State. Sans no Draymond. And last but not least, the Thunder and the Kings. My projection is Sacramento by 6. And it's LA by 5. Or Sacramento by 5. Oh my God. I have hockey in my head. Total 221.5. Let's go with the over. I think that this could be a high-scoring game. Thunder don't really play much defense. Neither do the Kings, but the Kings can also score. So I really like the over 221.5 in this game. All right, now we'll recap the college basketball games from last night and look ahead to tonight's window, which is small, but obviously larger than last night. All right, 2 games last night. Syracuse over Brown, 93-62. And Texas A&M over Dallas Christian, 102-52. All right, now we look ahead to tonight. 2 o'clock, Alabama State at number 25, Texas Tech. My projection is Tech by 37. And it is 29.5 and 135.5. I'll lay the points at Texas Tech. Connecticut College, St. Peter's, we could skip. Hartford Cornell canceled. James Madison Penn, not PU. UPenn postponed. Siena American canceled. Sac State, Oregon State postponed. 5 o'clock, North Alabama, Gonzaga. My projection is Gonzaga by 25.5, and it's 32.5 and 143.5. So number 4 team in the country is overvalued here. I'm taking North Alabama. Carver College, Jacksonville State at 7 o'clock. We can skip. New Orleans, number 13, Ohio State canceled. Same for UConn, number 23, Xavier. Wonder if they'll postpone that one at some point. Prairie View, Valparaiso canceled. Eastern Michigan, Ohio postponed. 8 o'clock, Northwestern State and Baylor. My projection here is Baylor by 38. The number 1 team in the country is giving 38.5, total 143.5. I'll take the over. Grambling in Southern Illinois. I did not do a projection for this game. Let's see here if I can quickly pull this one off. So projections on the fly on the Madison Miller podcast. So it is 14 3/4 for Southern Illinois. And it is 16.5 and 126.5. I am going to take the over. Mount Mary College, Drake, we can skip. Notre Dame, Pitt. My projection is Notre Dame by 5.25. And it is 4 and 126. I'll take the over. Incarnate Word at number 17, Texas at 8:30 on the Longhorn Network. My projection is Texas 41. And it's 34.5 and 129. I'll lay the points at Texas. Cincinnati, number 12, Houston postponed. Alexandria, North Texas canceled. Maryland, Eastern Columbia canceled. Big Ten Network, 8:30. Lehigh, Maryland. My projection is Maryland by 27.5. And it's 21.5 and 136.5. I'll lay with Maryland. Hope International, Long Beach State, we skip. Academy of Art in San Francisco, we skip. Those are both 9 o'clock games. Fresno State, Boise State. My projection is Boise by 5. And it's 4.5 and 119.5. I'll take the over. Riverside Davis canceled. Georgetown Creighton postponed. 10 o'clock, Laverne Cal Baptist, we can skip. And then Yale St. Mary's. My projection is St. Mary's by 15.25. And it's 12.5 and 129. I'll lay the points to St. Mary's. And number 20, Colorado State and New Mexico, which would have been an interesting game. That is postponed. All right, now we'll move on to the NHL, which is back tonight for the first time since a week ago today. It was the last time the NHL had a game. And it was that Tampa-Vegas game. And that was the last one we had. So welcome back to the NHL. 3 games tonight, 7 o'clock. You have the Canadiens and the Lightning from Tampa. Let's hope none of these guys postpone because the NHL is sorely missed on this podcast. Lightning are minus 300. Montreal plus 240. Over under 6. Overs minus 108. Unders minus 112. Montreal plus 1.5 is minus 104. Tampa minus 1.5 is minus 118. This is a tough one here. But I'm going to go with the under because I think that Tampa will have their defense mentality on them, and Vasilevsky will play a good game. So I like the under in this spot. Blue Jackets, Blackhawks postponed. 10:30 Golden Knights, Kings. Actually, no projections for hockey. That's too complicated. Vegas is minus 146. LA is plus 122. Over under 6. Overs even money. Unders minus 122. Vegas minus 1.5 is plus 160. Kings plus 1.5 is minus 205. I'm going to go with Vegas in regulation in this game at plus 105. And then last but not least, Coyotes Sharks. My lines here on FanDuel. Sharks minus 210. Coyotes plus 172. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 102. Unders minus 120. Coyotes plus 1.5 is minus 142. Sharks minus 1.5 is plus 116. I like the over in this spot. I don't think the Sharks should be this much of a favorite against anybody. But minus 102 on the over, I think, is good value. I think that the Sharks can put a good number up on the Coyotes, and then all there could be is an empty net. All right, now I'm going to do news and notes. Some NHL stuff coming down right now. As Darren Drager reports that the league is continuing to work on rescheduling scenarios for February. Each team could get a week off during the stretch, which is to be determined. And meanwhile, the league awaits morning testing to be certain all systems go for the 3 games being played tonight. So I suggested the rescheduling the games that were all postponed during the holiday break in February. I think that is a very smart idea to forego the Olympics and reschedule games in that period. And that's something that the NHL is taking advantage of. Meanwhile, the NBA doesn't have that leeway. And luckily enough, there wasn't any postponed games since before Christmas. So that's really good for the NBA. Although there are some teams like the Raptors who are stuck in COVID protocol hell right now. And the Timberwolves too. But some of them is injuries too. Speaking of COVID protocols, in COVID protocols now is DeAndre Ayton, and out of COVID protocols is Trae Young. And Jason Tatum is in COVID protocols too. Karl Anthony Towns says that Russell Westbrook chases stats. He says he's a hell of a player, but feels he chases stats and sometimes tries to do too much. I mean, I don't disagree with Kat, but because that's what Westbrook tries with, like, you get that vibe just from watching Russell Westbrook just to make his stats look good. And to his credit, he does work his ass off. And I do think he steals stats from other players as well. So Kat's right, but I think Russ is not going to take that lightly. Central Michigan is replacing Miami in the Sun Bowl after the Canes pulled out due to COVID-19 protocols. So luckily that's not a postponed or a canceled bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo fractures his thumb and has a chip bone and a torn ligament in his right thumb. And he's TBD for Sunday. Darrell Henderson placed on injury reserve after suffering an MCL injury on Sunday. Miles Sanders out week 17 with a broken bone in his hand, but the team's hopeful he can return the season. Shaq Barrett out 2 games as he has a sprained ACL and MCL, but hopeful he'll be back for the postseason. Brandon Tanev out for the season for the Kraken. That's a big loss for them. Marc-Andre Fleury is in COVID protocol, so that's not good for Chicago. As that game got postponed. That was one of the postponed games. I guess it's Chicago that has the COVID stuff. The NBA adjusts protocols timelines as the vaccinated and asymptomatic players and coaches can end isolation 6 days if testing shows they are not infectious. The Chargers broke many people's hearts, not just their fans, but bettors as well. 95% of the bets were on the Chargers money line via DraftKings, and 80% of the bets were on Chargers minus 10.5. Jahan Dotson to the draft as the wide receiver will forego Penn State's bowl game. Duke is postponing 2 games due to COVID-19 concerns. Their games against Clemson and Notre Dame. And then the AP poll is out for college basketball. 1 through 5, Baylor, Duke, Purdue, Gonzaga, UCLA. 6 through 10, Kansas, USC, Iowa State, Arizona, Michigan State. 11 through 15, Auburn, Houston, Ohio State, Tennessee, Seton Hall. 16 through 20, LSU, Texas, Kentucky, Alabama, Colorado State. And 20 through 25, Providence, Villanova, Xavier, Wisconsin, and Texas Tech. So what's weird to me is that there's some teams out there with 1 loss that aren't getting recognized, like West Virginia. They lost to Marquette, and Marquette isn't that bad. I think that is ridiculous that they're not getting recognized for having a solid non-con. And the haters are going to be like, or their fans' haters are going to be like, oh, they didn't play anybody. But Colorado State, who good have they played? Tell me who Colorado State has played that's good. But I know they deserve it because they're undefeated, but I'm just using that as an example. I know they beat Mississippi State and St. Mary's. Those are nice wins. Creighton's a good win. So they have 3 good wins. And Northeastern's not a terrible team either. So just wanted to check on that. But yeah. And in Oklahoma, 2 losses. But yeah, I think the pulse is a little bit odd because of the favoritism towards some 2-loss teams that are in there. But there's some 1-loss teams that are not in the AP poll. And then sports news, the CDC cuts COVID isolation days to 5 days from 10 days, which is interesting, even though the cases are going up. But the cases are going up because it's the holiday season and traveling and such. And Dr. Fauci slams Donald Trump for poisoning the well about the vaccine. I mean, that doesn't surprise me that Trump's getting slammed for saying that. Alrighty, now I'm going to do my NFL power rankings for the week. I haven't done them in a couple of weeks, so I'm just going to do them right now and try to be very quick. 32 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're in prime position to get the number 1 overall pick. Trevor Lawrence has not been good this year, and they've had so much turmoil. And now the team that you can make a case should be 32, and that's the New York Football Giants. The only reason why they're not is because I think the Urban Meyer stuff is still kind of been a laughingstock for the Jags. And the Giants have several injuries and COVID issues. And it's kind of not fair to put them 32 because of injuries and COVID issues. But they do belong in the bottom 2 nevertheless because they're obviously the worst team in the NFC. But the Jaguars deserve to be 32 because they didn't beat the Jets and they lost twice to the Texans, who were supposed to be the worst team in the league. And the Texans are 30 because at least they've been playing a little bit. And Davis Mills has actually looked fine. 29 is the Detroit Lions. They've been playing harder a little bit. They upset the Cardinals a few weeks ago. 28 is the New York Jets. They're also playing a little bit better. Robert Saleh might be the coach of the future. We'll see. 27 is the Seattle Seahawks. They're punished because they lost at home to the Bears, and they really are a bad team. I mean, people are going to point to the Russell Wilson injury, but they've been bad with Russell Wilson. 26, the Chicago Bears. They are in a rough spot coming up this week against the Giants because the Giants have their pick. So if they lose this game, that pick would be better for the Giants. Number 25 is the Carolina Panthers. No team really had a bigger miss than the Carolina Panthers when it came to the offseason, in my opinion. Because of the quarterback situation and the player who they picked in the first round that ended up getting hurt this year. 24, the New Orleans Saints. They'd be lower on this list if they didn't get off to that great start this year. But it's just unfortunate for them because of the situation they're in with Jameis Winston out for the year with the injury. And now they're on to the fourth quarterback. 23 is the Denver Broncos. I just think that Denver just really is just too inconsistent. Drew Lock sucks. We all know that. Amazingly enough, they're 7-8, but really doesn't feel like it. 22 Las Vegas Raiders head-to-head, so they beat the Broncos. If I'm not mistaken, they beat them twice. A lot of turmoil this year for the Raiders, though. 21 is the Philadelphia Eagles. To me, I gotta believe them once they beat a good team. They haven't beaten anybody good. I can't take them seriously. Same for the Washington football team. They got destroyed by Dallas twice, and destroyed was an understatement for Sunday night. It's funny, we all sit here and criticize the Giants and how they're easily the worst team in the division. If that was them that got destroyed by the Cowboys on Sunday night, then they'd be getting slaughtered even more. And that was a disgrace of a performance by the Washington football team on Sunday night. They stink. 19, the Atlanta Falcons. Still in the playoff hunt. They're not that bad. Their offense has potential. And Kyle Pitts is just a monster. 18, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got destroyed by the Chiefs and the Bengals within the last 5 weeks or so. So I really am not sold on Pittsburgh. Number 17 is the Cleveland Browns. A lot of turmoil with the quarterback situation and COVID protocol and such. 16 is the Miami Dolphins. My question for them is, who the hell have they beaten? The Ravens are the only good team they've beaten in the stretch, but that was a Thursday night game that was very, very wacky. So, and Lamar played in that game. Their defense played really well in that Thursday night game. But I need to see their defense perform against Buffalo and New England and some other good teams before I take them seriously. Test coming up against the Titans, but guess what? They don't have Derrick Henry, so that's another talking point for Miami if they win. 15 is the Minnesota Vikings. No team has been feast or famine more than them. They lose to the Lions. They lose to the Rams. They beat Green Bay. So, to me, they're interesting down the stretch. See if they make it or not. Number 14 is the Baltimore Ravens. I understand that they are down to their third-string quarterback. But their defense is the sole reason why they lost to the Bengals this past week. People forget that defense exists in the NFL. Number 13 is the Tennessee Titans. Still no Derrick Henry, but that was a big win over the 49ers the other night. Number 12 is the Los Angeles Chargers. That was just a terrible loss against the Texans. That's why they're out of the top 10. Justin Herbert is just wildly inconsistent, and he reminds me so much of Eli Manning, and I probably have said that on the podcast a couple times. Number 11 is the Arizona Cardinals. Boy, have things fallen. This was number 1 in the power rankings a couple times this year, and now they're out of the top 10 with a couple losses in a row. They're just not the same team without DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt. Number 10 is the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford's taken a huge dip in the second half of the season. I don't know if he's hurt or what. Number 9 is New England Patriots. Back-to-back losses against good teams. People are starting to waver on them a little bit. But they have beaten some good teams in the stretch. Like the Chargers aren't that bad. Neither are the Titans. So it's going to be interesting. And then they nearly beat Dallas. So they should have beaten Dallas. And they should have beaten the Bucs. So I still believe in the Patriots. I still do. I'm still a believer. Number 8 is the Cincinnati Bengals. They're good. They're legit. They should win the AFC North. Joe Burrow right now is the best quarterback in the division. Joe Burrow is the best quarterback that was taken in the draft last year, not Justin Herbert. And they're good. They really need to be taken seriously. Number 7 is the San Francisco 49ers. They're ahead of the Bengals, virtue of head-to-head. I thought last week was a little bit fluky for them. They'll recover. I know the Jimmy G thing stinks a little bit, but we'll see how they bounce back. That's a good team, though. Number 6 is the Green Bay Packers. They're up there among the NFC's best teams. Aaron Rodgers should be the MVP this year. Number 5 is the Indianapolis Colts. This team's good. I mean, it'd be a travesty if they don't win this division. They're the best team in the division. They're the best roster in the division. They don't have the best quarterback in the division, but they might have the quarterback that's playing the best in the division right now. I mean, Ryan Tannehill with Derrick Henry and a good offensive line behind him, I trust more than Carson Wentz. But Carson Wentz hasn't been bad. He really hasn't been that bad. And I know he didn't throw against the Patriots because he was afraid to throw against the Patriots. And plus, Jonathan Taylor's just a beast. He's up there with Aaron Rodgers for me for MVP. Number 4 is the Dallas Cowboys. I think this team is back, and they're a contender, and they have to be taken seriously if that offense is running on all cylinders. Number 3 is the Buffalo Bills. A lot of people wrote them off, about the last couple weeks, saying that this team is not what we think, and the Patriots are better, yada, yada. They threw that in our faces last week. Josh Allen is awesome, and they really have a shot to go to the Super Bowl. Number 2 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know they looked really lousy against the Saints 2 weeks ago, but they bounced back, beat the Panthers, and they don't have receivers, I get it. But Tom's still Tom. Gronk is Gronk. And this is still a good roster, and I get they have injuries right now. But they'll find a way to recover and potentially go on a run. And number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. They're back. To me, they're the Super Bowl favorites. Patrick Mahomes is back to being Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes put himself right back in the MVP conversation the past couple weeks. But I think that the first half of the season could very well cost him the award because the team really wet the bed defensively and even offensively to some degree, especially in that Bills game. That was just a bad loss for them. I think will haunt Mahomes and that team for the remainder of the year. So there you have it, the NFL Power Rankings as we head into Week 17 of the season. All right, last but not least, my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. I have one game in mind, and it's in the NBA, And that pick is Washington getting the 6.5 at Miami. I think that Bradley Beal will play well. This is an in-division game, in-conference game. I think the Wizards can win this game outright. So, give me Washington plus 6.5 at Miami against the depleted from a standpoint of star power version of the Heat. They have Jimmy, but they don't have Bam and Lowry, and that's worrisome to me. So that's why I really like Washington on the road in this spot. All right, so there you have it for today's show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything from today and look ahead to everything tomorrow. Tomorrow's show, I'm going to do hit or miss for the first time in a couple weeks, and it's going to be the 2019 Major League Baseball draft. And then obviously news and notes and best bet as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.